But we're going to have Brett start with some of the injuries on the U.S. side that are going to keep some of the players out.
Being reported that Bocanegra, Demerit, and Howard all picked up slight injuries, and it's also been talked about since the camp started that EJ was entering the camp injured.
Yeah, something that maybe didn't get all the way to Bob Bradley before he picked the team, I hear. The other thing I would say, again, Demerit seemed to also have brought that injury into camp. Bocanegra brought his injury into camp, and that's a stomach pull. Those things you just don't want to mess around with. So if you're Bocanegra, you're probably thinking, and if you're the manager as well as the folks looking after Carlos, you're just saying, listen, don't bother playing.
I have a feeling Bob Bradley's 23-man roster is going to come down to the final minute. June 1st is when it's going to come out.
So who do you think he's going to give a shot tomorrow against the Czech Republic?
Up front, I'm going to go with Josie Altidore and Edson Buttle. I do think Gomez will come in, but I think Bob's really going to be. He's going to start Josie. And my question would be, do you think Bob's going to start resting some of his players that he knows are going to be key starters?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think at the forward position is where he's going to definitely be giving almost everyone a chance. So I think
outside of Finley.
Yeah, Finley's the only guy I see that doesn't get a chance, and of course EJ because he's injured, or he might not be injured now. So who knows? But I think we're going to see Hercules. I think we're going to see. Josie. We're going to see Edson Buttle. We're going to see Brian Cheng, and maybe we'll see EJ. But I just don't see Robbie Finley making this team, and I think maybe that decision's already been made. What about the midfielders? Who else are we going to see besides the normal guys?
Well, I have my four I'm going to have starting is Donovan, Michael Bradley, Adu, and Dempsey. Yeah,
that sounds like the reasonable lineup, of course. And who knows? I mean, is it possible that Bob Bradley might just throw Dempsey up at the end of the game, or at some point let him play striker? Who knows? But I think we'll also see Clark, probably Phil Hopper, and Holden. And I don't think we're going to see Kleshton or Rogers. I don't think those guys are going to get a look.
Well, I don't think Dempsey's going to be pushed up top. We already know what we get from Dempsey up top. We already know the quality. It's there. So I think he's going to start Dempsey. You're going to see Holden come in, perhaps Bedoya, Clark, Torres. Dale Hopper's always a possibility.
What about DeMarcus?
Yeah, he stands a good possibility too. I mean, he's coming off of a good game against the Dutch, and I think that he's going to be refreshed and ready to make a statement. My thing is that we might not see certain players come in this game that might start or even play in the second game against Turkey. Mm-hmm. So while somebody like Bedoya or Torres or even DeMarcus Beasley might not get time in this first game, we might see them in the second game.
Yeah,
we probably will see them in the second game at that.
Exactly. So Bob may use the first game to just eliminate a few people, and then use the second game to make that final chisel to the sculpture and just get it down to the last few guys. On the defensive end, with so many guys looking like they can't play, and this is something we talked about earlier today, the idea that Bob might fiddle around there too. Yes, he could start Goodson. Yes, he could start Marshall alongside of a healthy Onyewu. But then again, in the press for the last couple days, we've heard Bradley boast on Spector being able to fill any role across the line. And if I hadn't heard him say it, I wouldn't think that we would try it, but we might.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me earlier today, and I hadn't heard it until you told me it. My original lineup was going to be Bornstein, Gooch, Goodson, and Trundolo. But in this case, I certainly could see Bornstein, Gooch, Spector, and Trundolo, just so we can see what if Spector is capable of playing that center back position.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well try it now.
Better now than against England.
Exactly. And then watching England today, you got the feeling that England is going to really test the wings, and right on down that what would be our left back side, which makes me a little nervous if Bokenegger does end up playing out that on that left back side. He could get burned. We may end up seeing Jonathan Bornstein make this team specifically to play against the speed of Theo Walcott, because we all know Bornstein can run.
I was debating this with somebody earlier today during the game. You have a couple options. You have Bornstein, who can maintain the pace of Walcott, but he will get burned as far as talent goes.
Right.
You have Bokenegger, who could somewhat compete as far as talent goes. Not quite, but he'll get burned as far as speed goes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question would be do you want to play somebody who's a little more mobile and as far as being technically sound as somebody like Spector, or even pushing Cherundolo over to the left? I mean, he might not be a left back, but I mean, if we need to put somebody there strictly to take Walcott out of position, Cherundolo might not be a bad option.
And earlier this season, Spector got a chance to play against not specifically Theo Walcott, but other quicker guys on the left back position, and maybe it is he is that other option on the left back besides Bornstein, besides Cherundolo moving over there. Because one thing about Cherundolo is, even though he might be capable of playing left back, he hasn't played a lot of left back in his career. He has been strictly a right back guy, and it would be an experiment. And maybe now, during these friendlies, is the time to do that experiment, because it certainly wouldn't be the time during the World Cup.
It all depends on what Bradley has in store for Spector. I mean, if Demerit or Boca come back and Spector's available, I say we play Spector out wide because he's already playing left back.
Yeah, I mean.
But if it's not, then I say Spector goes into the center, and then it really just comes down to like a roulette as far as who plays left back. And hope to God they don't exploit it.
Yep. And the last position, Tim Howard out possibly with an injury. So do we see Guzan or Hanneman?
I want to say it's going to be Hanneman. That's who I have listed.
Me too.
I'm cautious to say because on the opportunity. He has in the past. He hasn't called up Henneman before, so I'm hoping that he goes with current form. And as we talked about prior to this vidcast, is that Henneman has been in form. In fact, you even made the argument that he could really compete against a healthy Howard.
And our opponent is the Czech Republic.
Who do you think that we're going to have to really keep an eye out?
Well, there are a few guys. Obviously, the first guy and I don't know if he's gonna start, but you got Petr Cech. Another guy that you have to keep an eye out on is Jaroslav Plasil. He's a winger from Bordeaux, and he played 23 games for Bordeaux this year. He played very well. He's just one of those guys that I'm thinking the Czech Republic will want to try out, because he's somewhat of a young guy, and they're looking towards the future, Czech Republic. They're looking towards who's going to make it in 4 years. And the guy that really stands out for me that we're going to have to pay attention to tomorrow is Vaclav Sverkos, who is Charlie Davies' friend and teammate at Sochaux. And he's scored plenty of goals for them over the years. The things that you will not see from the Czech Republic that we are used to seeing is there's not going to be any Rosicky. He's gone. He won't be there. Grigera won't be there, and nor will Milan Beros. So we won't have to deal with some of the superstars, yet we're going to have to deal with a team that's still quite young and has a lot of talent.
What do you think the final score is going to be?
I'm going to go out on a limb, since we're going to be experimenting, I think, on this first game quite a bit. I'm just going to say it's going to end 1-1. And I'd like to see us get a win, but I know that Bob has to test some players, and I know because of that there's going to be probably a few chemistry errors that you don't typically see from a U.S. team, the standard U.S. team. We're going to be throwing in guys that aren't used to being there.
Well, the back line's kind of concerning. I'm going to steal the Dutch USA score line and say it's going to be a 2-1 Czech Republic score line. Mm-hmm. I don't want to predict a loss, but we are going, like you said, we're going to be experimenting with strikers. We're going to be experimenting with a center back, and we're going to have a left back that's not really consistent. So it's going to be it's going to be a toss-up. I hope the U.S. success, but I'm just not predicting it.
Yeah, I agree. There's just a little too much experimenting going on here for this to be an outright success for the United States.